I pled out to the charge of cruelty to a juvenile. I think I may have caused some trauma to my sister, and
I'm raising my little girl, his sister, not the same person who was in the court case. My daughter is 10, and every night she cries for her Bubba and her daddy. And I cannot bring her daddy home, but I can do everything I can to try and bring her Bubba home.
And your relationship to the victim in this case was what?
My stepsister,
And she was, how old was she?
13.
We did not want him to take a plea. We did not want him to agree to something that we did not feel that he had done, and that the victim and the mother and my brother have all said he did not do, even though their stories have changed.
And you heard correctly. You heard from two different roaches doing it to their sisters, blaming their sisters, but then having their support, whether it be their aunt or their mother, who is actually there enabling them. One accusing the victim of lying, the other pleading with the parole board to please allow him back so he can be with my 10-year-old daughter. This stuff is nuts. You know, we're so accustomed to it though. You see these roaches, right? These Ch0M0s, they are often surrounded by enablers that empower them to prey on more victims. Now we're going to see these two parole hearings. We're going to see how it plays out. They have so much in common. It's uncanny, but then again, don't they all? Anyways, with that, let's jump in.
Casey Morton, 757986.
Mr. Martin, you were before the panel today as a first-class offender with 2 counts of cruelty to juveniles. You have a parole eligibility date, 10/26/2024. You have an adjusted good time date of 11/12/2025 and a full term date of 1/26/2036. Does that sound correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Before we get started with our questioning, I'd like for you to explain to this panel why you are incarcerated and why do you think we should provide you with an opportunity for early release?
Some mistakes in my past, and I'm not proud of the person that I used to be. And I've spent the last 4 years doing a lot of work on myself and changing the person that I was before I came in here. And I've learned a lot in the last 4 years. Aside from just trade skills and work skills, I've learned a lot on changing the way that I think and the way that I handle emotion in general, and carrying myself as a person. And I regret the person I used to be, and I do take full responsibility for the person I used to be. But I like to think that I've changed and turned into a better person.
Well, you haven't mentioned what you did. You don't like it. There were some mistakes. So why were you incarcerated?
I pled out to the charge of cruelty to a juvenile. I think I may have caused some trauma to my sister, and it's not that I don't like it.
We have your mother on Zoom today who
Yes,
would
ma'am.
like to make a statement, and Ms. Hibbs, now would be the appropriate time to make a statement.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. Did y'all read the letter that I had sent?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to start by saying the boy that went to jail when he did is not the man that I've come to know. The few times I've been able to see him and the times we get to talk on the phone, he is a different person. And I'm so proud of the way he speaks of wanting to better his life, taking accountability for the actions that were made, and wanting to live a life where he can be the best person that he can be, and whoever he comes around. He comes from a wonderful family. We've been close our whole lives. This is the first time he's ever, I don't even think he had a speeding ticket. He's my best friend. He's been my rock my whole life. Right before Casey was arrested, his dad passed away from COVID. And then my mom, his grandma, also passed away. And then this past 2 years, my husband passed away. And I'm raising my little girl, his sister, not the same person who was in the court case. My daughter is 10, and every night she cries for her Bubba and her daddy. And I cannot bring her daddy home, but I can do everything I can to try and bring her Bubba home, because she needs some normalcy. She's in grief counseling for all the losses that she's had in her little life. I've had counseling. I know Casey's taking classes and he's had counseling. Everything he could get his hands on, he's done to better himself in the situation. He's been a trustee. I can't change the past, but I sure want to help him have the best future he can. We have a home in Walker, Louisiana. His room is ready and waiting for him when that time comes. He has a letter from a man named Andrew Hundley that will be getting him work through a work release program, or reentry program, I mean. I need to put my family back together. I'm on disability. I can barely make groceries. I donate plasma twice a week to make grocery money for me and my daughter. And it sure would be nice to have someone help me raise her and someone help me put food on the table. And I know that this isn't his problem, me being in a situation, but I hope that you can maybe show compassion towards the entire situation, because it does affect everyone. I want him to be accountable for his actions, and I believe he has. And I just pray for the whole situation.
Thank you very much. I know it's difficult.
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, I'm gonna turn it over and ask Mr. Freeman to conduct the interview.
Okay, Mr. Casey, first off, your sister, okay, so it's not the girl that's home now. Where is the victim?
Living with her mother, I assume. I haven't talked to him in quite a while.
So how is she, that's your father's child? That's how she's your sister?
Yes, sir.
Allegedly.
My dad ended up having a child with another woman, and there was never, I don't know if there was ever a DNA test done, but we're pretty sure she's my sister. But I'm pretty sure she's living with her mother.
Okay. And have you taken any sex offender classes since you've been in?
No, sir. I was told I didn't need them since I wasn't a sex offender. I got my high set, and then I took understanding and reducing angry feelings. And I took some more classes. They weren't actual DOC good time classes. I didn't get a certificate for them, but I took some parenting classes from people when I was at the DeQuincy City Jail that were certified to teach them. It wasn't a DOC certified class.
Gotcha. Okay, were you on drugs, alcohol when you committed this offense?
No, sir.
I understand you weren't charged with a sex offense, but the actual crime was a sex offense. So, this was a result of a plea bargain, or did you go to trial?
I took a plea bargain.
On first degree rape and sexual violation.
Okay, all right, I do want to say that, the DA, the sheriff, the chief, and the attorney general are opposed, and as we saw, your mother is unopposed. I have, you realize you get out 11, 12, 25, no matter what we do today. You got another 200 days of good time you could earn. You would be out in about now if you would have taken all your classes. So I have no further questions. I'll listen to my colleagues and see what they have to ask.
I don't have any questions. Ms. Renatza?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Can I ask a question or is my time up?
We can't answer any questions about time or anything like that, so we'll just go ahead and continue, if you don't mind.
Yes,
ma'am.
okay.
Would
Mr.
it be
Frank,
possible to add something myself?
you may have a final statement. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say I was over there at DeQuincy for 2.5 years, and most of the time that I was there, I was trying to get somewhere where I could take more classes because I knew when I got to this point that would affect me in the end. And I could not get anywhere. I was working at Phelps 4 days a week while staying at DeQuincy, and I tried to get there for classes for a while. I just never could. I really was trying. I don't want anybody to think that I wasn't trying to get classes, 'cause I really was. I wasn't able to.
I understand.
That does happen.
Okay, thank you.
That was my question.
Yeah, Mr. Frank.
Okay, I think the panel's ready to vote. Mr. Martin, I'm not gonna lie to you, my vote today is gonna be to deny. You it was a terrible, terrible charge, which you received a humongous break on. And so I think it was a result of a plea bargain, and I think you need to do your time. So my vote today is to deny.
Mr. Renatza?
I agree based on the plea agreement and the proximity of the full term date. My vote is to deny.
I also concur. So today, Mr. Martin, your request for early release has been denied. We wish you well.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. God bless.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Well, never mind.
I wish that I could share more information on this case, but really what I pulled from it, because there's nothing else there, is that I think he's been locked up for 2.5 years for the outrageous crime that he did to his sister, allegedly, or whatever. But the DA, right, they give him a plea deal. They give him 2 counts of cruelty to a juvenile. Now listen to this. Not only does he have that plea deal where I guess his total time served is going to be like 5 years, even though his full term date is until 2036, right? But listen to this. His crazy mother, who's trying to bring him home to be with the other sister, right? They can't stop him from doing that. They can't stop her from doing that because this was not prosecuted. The plea deal was not done as a sex offense. He doesn't need to register. They can't stop him from moving home with another potential victim. Roaches exist, the monsters exist, the roaches, they have their supporting victims like mom, who's saying, oh, he's my rock, he's my best friend, he's such a great, you couldn't even know that he needs to come. She doesn't even understand how ridiculous it is. He needs to come home to my daughter, who is 10 years old. Now we don't know how old his victim was, but I like a juvenile, okay. And such a horrendous count. You hear Mr. Freeman talking about it. You only can imagine how bad it was. And then they do a plea deal without, the two-faced. Oh, the attorney general is opposed to you, or the judge is opposed to you. You're so opposed, you show up. No, you're so opposed that you give a plea deal that would put more victims in his path. He doesn't need to register. He's going to be, in a very short amount of time, on his good time, is going to be living with the 10-year-old. You can't make it up. I want to thank, where is it? I want to thank Nicole. Nicole emailed me and said, Mandy, these cases are crazy. And of course, Holly had it in the case hard circled, but it always does make a difference when someone in the YouTube community reaches out and says, make sure you check it. And then the next hearing we're going to see, well, this roach, it's very similar. Like I said, he well, let's just dive in, and let's just dive in. So with that, let's go.
Good afternoon. The Louisiana Committee on Parole is still at Claiborne, and it's 12:41. Sir, would you please state your name and your DOC number for the record? Still on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Justin Medlin, 775-045.
Okay, Mr. Medlin, the panel today is composed of Mr. Freeman to my right, Ms. Renatza Remote, and Ms. Ledoux. I'm going to read some information from your file. You are a first-class offender, and you're currently serving a 5-year sentence with indecent behavior with a juvenile. Parole eligibility date was 6/11/2023. You're not eligible for good time release, and your full term date 6/10/2026. Have you had a hearing previously?
Yes, ma'am. I had one July 27th of 23.
And that's right. He did have a hearing on July 2023. So before we watch this present day March 2025 hearing, we are going to take a classic flash to the past to watch that parole hearing. And it has some of our favorites like Miss Bonnie Jackson. Thank you, Sir Richard and Lady Holly, for putting these spreadsheets together that make it possible for us to have these flashbacks to the past. The only channel on YouTube that does that, and it's because of them that it's possible. If you want to see more hearings where we do that, check the Return of playlist. Now with that, let's jump in.
All right. Mr. Medlin, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, my name is Justin Medlin, DOC number 775-045.
Yep, 775-045. Let me get that on the right page. All right, Mr. Medlin, let's see. You're classified as a first felony offender, currently serving a 5-year sentence for a conviction in Caddo Parish of decent behavior with a juvenile.
Yes, ma'am.
Parole eligibility date was June 11th, 2023. You're not eligible for good time, so your full term date is June 10th, 2026. Does all that sound correct?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Your your case is assigned to me, so I'm gonna take the lead on the interview.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
old are you, sir?
31, ma'am.
How long have you been in jail?
2 years.
2 years. 2 of a 5-year sentence. And so that would put you around 29 at the time of this offense.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, and your relationship to the victim in this case was what?
My stepsister.
She was your stepsister.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was, how old was she?
13.
And so I'm a little confused because in your application, in my packet, I see where you claim you're innocent.
Yes, ma'am.
Crime. You pled guilty in court.
Yes, ma'am.
to a lesser charge. I think your aunt wrote a letter explaining the plea.
Yes, ma'am.
You were facing a longer sentence. But then in your letter, you also tell us, I know I've done wrong and made mistakes. That's what landed me in jail. I've learned from my mistakes. So would you tell us what did you do? Tell us about the lesson. What have you done wrong?
Well, first off, I shouldn't have gotten as close emotionally and psychologically as I did with the victim. Like I said, it's my dad's girlfriend's daughter. She's troubled. She was a very troubled teen. I went through a lot of that stuff myself as a teenager and growing up. And I took what my dad and her mom wanted me to do and get close to her and talk to her, because they both tried to talk to her and get her to open up, but she wouldn't open up to them. So they came to me since I was younger and to talk to her. Well, I started talking to her and she started opening up to me, but then she started coming at me in more ways than a brother, more like she was attracted to me. And there was multiple times that I told her that don't see her that way. I don't look at people that way at that age. But I could have just put a stop to it then. But I didn't, because I tried to handle it on my own, but apparently it didn't work. And by so doing, I put myself in a predicament to where, I made mistakes. I got close. I made comments I shouldn't have made, and that was on my own volition. That was my own stupidity that got me in the predicament that I arrived in. So, as I said,
you also you have written a letter to be placed in sex offender treatment.
yes, ma'am, because when I got registered, when I had to take my time, I saw when I did all my research on probation and parole, y'all look for good time classes and stuff like that. Well, I didn't want to squander my chance, and I didn't want y'all to look at it and be like, all right, Mr. Medlin didn't take any classes. Well, I'm here in Richland Parish, and sadly, they don't offer any classes for me to take. So the only option I could do was write Wade or Hunts, the places that I was told that offer those programs, so I could take it, so I could show y'all that I'm not just sitting here in jail idle, just twiddling my thumbs, not trying to better myself. I understand I made a mistake, but I wanted to better myself because, talk is cheap. I was taught that from a young age, and I wanted to actually show, y'all as the board, my family and myself, that I can do whatever needs to be done to prove that, hey, if y'all want me to do this, then I'll do that. I have no problem bettering myself and understanding that I made a mistake and needed treatment if I needed treatment. If that's so what you or the DOC wants me to do. I don't have any opposing of that, because I am a good person. I made a mistake. I made comments I shouldn't have made, and I take ownership of that. And me being down for these 2 years, the only thing I've been able to do is take Bible course studies from CLI Prison Alliance. I got my first certificate from that. I'm still doing that right now. But as far as everything else, sadly, in satellite camps, they don't offer anything for somebody labeled me to take. I've tried to do work release. I can't do that. I try to be trustee. Can't do that. And I understand it's what I'm labeled, and that's on me. That's my fault. But I'm just wanting to do everything I can to be the best me that I can be.
All right. You do have opposition that's been expressed in the record. I'm trying to get to it so I can tell you who they are. The sentencing judge in Caddo Parish, they just have a blanket opposition. The district attorney's office is opposed based on the serious nature of the case. Sheriff's office is opposed. Of course, your family is supportive. The victim's mother is unopposed.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is unusual.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I was saying. They
All right. Yeah, you don't need to comment on that. So what would be your plans? I know you did include some plans in your packet.
Yes, ma'am.
You tell us on the record what your plans, should you be successful, what are your plans?
Well, my plans are first off, to get out and go to the probation parole, do my registration, pay all the fees I need to do. And from what I was told through my grandma, Sue Robertson, that a parole officer called her and they stated that there is opportunities for me labeled as a sex offender to be able to get a job. Obviously, I want to do a job. I don't like sitting by idle. I want to get in a job. And again, to be able to pay my way and take care of myself and my family right now. So I'm going to be, if granted successfully, if I do get a parole, I'm going to be moving back with my grandparents, my grandma, Sue Robertson, and my papa, Jimmy, and helping take care of him because he has dementia right now and it's all on her right now. So just paying my dues to society as a person should be doing. And if need be, I'm really wanting to get into Celebrate Recovery, because I started doing that here in jail. And I've been realizing that even though I'm not addicted to drugs or alcohol, I had other addictions that I needed to face and fix. And I would like to continue on doing that and continue on trying to better my life and help people in the process that are in the same shoes or that have been locked up before. Because me being down for 2 years, I've seen the other side of the coin, and it's not pretty, but you make the best of the situation, and that's what I want to do when I get home. Make the best of it.
What are the addictions you need to address or that you needed to address?
My simple addictions are I was addicted to smoking cigarettes. I was addicted to gambling. Gambling was the biggest one. Other than that, nothing. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. Never have, never will. But other than those two, I watch porn, legal porn, but I think that's pretty normal for everybody as an adult. But I don't think I would be addicted to that. But just smoking and gambling would be it.
All right, any questions? Yes.
Ms. Mellon, I'm listening to you.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have some concerns about you. I do. One, no, it's not normal that everybody don't watch porn. Not. You said you watch porn, but you don't think that's an addiction. That you were talking to Miss Renata about your addictions. You mentioned gambling and cigarettes, and you said, well, I watch porn, but that's, normal for, an adult legal porn.
Yes, ma'am. I understand. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't be watching that either. And that's another thing that I'm working on, especially being in jail, being a part of my church service and stuff, is not doing the same mistakes that I made in the past. Because in the past I did make mistakes, like we all do. I made a grievous mistakes, and I was more worried about the here and now and the flesh than what I should have been doing for myself spiritually and emotionally. And
Just a moment, if you would. I'm also concerned about your ownership of responsibility. I'm not sure that I'm convinced about your explanation of what occurred between you and the victim. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've heard a lot of people, I've listened to a lot of people, and I'm not really convinced that nothing happened sexually between you and the victim. And so my concern is that if you're not willing to acknowledge to yourself, and I know it's hard because you got a family on Zoom, and you told them something and maintained the story with them for a long time, and they're here today. And so that may make it difficult for you to acknowledge what actually happened in this case. And quite frankly, I don't think that you have acknowledged exactly what happened. And so going to sex offender treatment, don't know how beneficial that would be if you don't own responsibility and acknowledge your issues. And I'm concerned about that. And I want you to know that I have some serious concerns about that. I've been a judge, I was a judge for 28 years. I've listened to and talked to a lot of people, and you get a sense for who's saying what they think people want to hear, and people who are honestly answering based on, you know, the reality of your situation. I just want you to know that I have some concerns. That's all all right, you have some family members who have joined us, so we'll hear from them at this time. I think your aunt is on Zoom, Miss Madeline. We'd like to hear from you.
Yes, ma'am. I am in favor of Justin being paroled so he can start back to work and being a responsible person. I hear what the last Miss Jackson said. I don't agree with that, not just because I'm his aunt, because of all of the conversations with the victim, the mother of the victim, my brother. Their variations of everything that took place has changed probably 20 plus times over. It still changes to this day. The
Yeah,
only version.
You've given us all those details in your letter. We did get. So
I'm just stating that I don't think it is black and white as it's being made to be. That being said, my nephew, from what I've learned from the attorneys, that when a question like this is asked, he should have asked for an attorney, but he didn't, because he thought he was being honest, and he went to the jailhouse twice, not once, but twice, just to answer a question. They said that was his biggest mistake, because he's thinking he's giving honest answers, and then he was basically just a sitting duck, I guess. I don't really know how all that works, but that being said, we did not want him to take a plea. We did not want him to agree to something that we did not feel that he had done, and that the victim and the mother and my brother have all said he did not do, even though their stories have changed.
You are trash.
But he got scared because of the judge was brand new, and the judge was very harsh from the very beginning, and he did not even come across as someone that was being subjective. He had very strong opinions, and it scared Justin. And at the very last minute, and our attorneys was very confident with the proof that he had, but Justin at the last minute changed his mind and took a plea, and we couldn't, he was the person that had to make that decision ultimately, even though we didn't want him to do that. But he got scared because the judge was saying, you're facing 25 years. And he was like, my whole life will be gone. So anywho, we were told that day he would be going to a facility that he could do rehabilitation courses and et cetera, et cetera. None of that happened. He was sent to a place that didn't provide that. I think as he was mentioned, he has been asking for those kind of services and classes. He hasn't received that either.
right, Miss Madeline, can you wrap it up for us? You got about 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Well, getting out, I financially will help my mother, help Justin get all his fines, whatever is needed to get him back sustainable and ready for, living at my mom's house. My mom is taking care of my stepfather, who has Alzheimer's. And so it would be very helpful to her as well. And I think good for Justin to have that kind of responsibility.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And her mother will be talking on the phone. Yeah, and we have Miss Sue Roberts on the phone. Miss Roberts. Yeah. Let me there you go, Miss Roberts.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm here.
What would you like to say to us?
Okay, Justin is my grandson, and he lived with me twice in his high school. Never had any trouble out of him at all. He would be a really big help to me right now with my husband. I'm almost 73, and my husband's way bigger than me, so having a man here would really help. I do believe he's a good, honest person. He has made mistakes in his past, and I believe that he will own up to them and do the right thing.
All right, yes, ma'am. We appreciate your participation today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Justin,
Ma'am.
is there anybody anybody there with you? A staff member?
Yeah, yes, Warden Wade's outside. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, can you ask him to step in for a second?
Yes, ma'am.
You can say where you're at. Warden, is
Okay.
there any input you can give us about Mr. Medlin?
I don't really know very much about it.
Well, sometimes that's a good thing. It means he
Yes,
stayed
ma'am,
out
it
of
is.
trouble. Okay, thank you so much, sir. Justin, is there anything you'd like to say to us before we go?
Yes, ma'am. Miss Jackson, I want to say thank you for your concern. I appreciate that, and you've definitely opened my eyes up to a lot of things that I need to be more proactive in my recovery of my mistakes that I've made. And I hope that, if God forbid, if I'm not granted parole, can I at least please be granted to where I can get into some type of thing that'll help me so I can have the best chance of upon release, whether it be parole or full term, to be the best legal citizen again in the world. That's all I want to do. I want to prove to myself and to everybody else that just because I'm in an orange doesn't mean that I'm a monster. I made mistakes. I'm sorry for that, but I do want to be better. I want to be a better person, and it's a learning process. And I'm learning as I go. But like my parents said, I am a good person. I made mistakes in my life. I've regretted, but I want to be the best that I can be. That's all I ask. I just want to be a normal person again and go back to work and live a life and pay taxes like everybody else.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Justin, I think we're prepared to vote. And I hear everything you're saying. I hear everything your family is saying. I have shared the same concerns that Mrs. Jackson has voiced. Without the sex offender treatment, I don't feel confident in a grant of parole. My vote today is going to be to deny your parole, but I will make a strong recommendation that the Department of Corrections moves you to a facility to afford you that treatment program.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you will have an opportunity to reapply for another hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
After you complete that treatment program, do so.
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Jackson.
All right, mine is the same, Mr. Mellon. I think you can really benefit from participating in the sex offender program, and it's unfortunate that you've been housed at a facility that doesn't afford you that opportunity. So my vote today is a vote of encouragement. It's going to be to deny, but we're going to do everything we can to get you transferred to a facility where you can enroll in and complete the sex offender treatment and then reapply once you're eligible.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Great.
Mr. Mellon, my vote would be to grant.
Yes, sir.
And just order that you follow all the rules of the sex offender contract and attend the classes on the outside.
Yes, sir.
All right, so in your case, because of the nature of the charge, it does require unanimous vote. So the end result of today's proceeding is that your parole's been denied. We're going to encourage you to do the sex offender treatment. We'll do everything we can to get you there and reapply. Good luck to you. So.
Yes, ma'am. Thank y'all.
And thank God for their denial. Thank God for the Honorable Judge Bonnie Jackson. I do miss having the quality of a parole board interviewer like Judge Jackson. She was a Louisiana gem, and I didn't realize what I had until she was gone. But look, we're about to fast forward to the present day, 2025, to see his next parole hearing. So we're going to go do that. But before we do, just a few things off my chest. And I'm going to keep it short because, again, I'll unpack it more when we get to the end. But I was like thinking about this guy and thinking about this hearing and thinking about, and the only, what makes him different and what makes him different. Now, we see people like him sometimes, but what makes him different, I think, is that he is well-spoken. He has a radio voice. He's well manicured. But what he's saying, everything that comes out of his mouth, is as dumb and ridiculous as every other Chomo Roach that we hear from. He's just saying it differently. When you think about it, all he's saying is, well, she came on to me. She came, it was her fault. I was there to be a mentor and I should have stopped her advances. And it's like, are you kidding me? This is what you've got after a couple years locked up. And it just goes to show these programs that they take, right? It doesn't fix them. It doesn't solve a problem. The only thing, in my opinion, that it does is that it trains them to know what to say and how to say it. Not that what they are saying is good or wrong or bad, or like think about it. She was what, 13 years old? He was 20. Like you can't even. And then of course he's surrounded by an enabler, just like the last one. I mean, again, and she's actually calling the victim a liar. Oh, he was facing all this time in court. Our attorney had evidence. It's like, wow, you are dangerous. You are dangerous, lady, and you don't even realize it, but you are not helping him out at all. That is not what the parole board is looking for. They are not looking for another enabler. But here you have it. We see it all the time. But let's go to the present day. Miss Renatza is on the board. She remembers him or he remembers her. Let's see what he's learned in his programs. Let's see if he takes a shift in his approach, and let's see if that results in a grant. So let's go.
Okay. All right. So we would like to ask you to tell this panel why you're currently incarcerated and why do you think we should provide you with consideration for early release.
Okay. As y'all read to me, I'm currently serving a 5-year sentence for indecent behavior. Let me first say what I did was wrong, and it affected not only myself, but most importantly, the victim and her family were the result of my actions and just how I conducted myself as a person in whole. As I've stated before, I met with Ms. Cheryl in 23, and I was denied parole because I didn't have a sex offender program when I was in Claiborne. Oh, no, excuse me, not Claiborne, Richland Parish Detention Center. And I wanted to take the program because, one, I wanted to learn whatever bad habits I might have had that I might have not have intentionally known. And also I wanted to prove to myself, to the public and to the panel that I was striving really to better myself as a person and as a whole. So I got transferred to Bayou-Dorty Correctional Center. I successfully completed my sex offender program there and anger management. I didn't take the drug and alcohol because I don't suffer from drug and alcohol addiction or problems. After I graduated that, I became a trustee there. I was the law library guy, store, and the barber. But in a whole, the reason why I feel like I should be considered for early release parole is because, me, like so many other people, are striving to better themselves, to understand that jail as a whole, the whole system is constructed to get people to realize that they made mistakes and that, they did wrong, and to strive to be better people, not allow the quote unquote system to break them in a negative way, but break them in a positive way to help them, be at your lowest point, because this is what's going to be your lowest point, or should be, and allow yourself to build yourself up and realize, hey, all right, Mr. Medlin, you did wrong. You broke the law, you hurt people, and you're paying for that. And you need to get better. Well, how to get better? Well, you gotta first self-evaluate yourself. And that's what I've been striving to do these almost 4 years that I've been incarcerated, to realize that, the actions and how I conducted myself was not appropriate, was not right, and that I needed help. And
I hate to say that it took me getting down to my lowest point to, wake up and smell the coffee in a sense and grow up and be realize that how I was handling myself was not the best way of doing it. And that's not me as a whole person. But I feel like, when I get back out there in the world, whether y'all vote to get me on parole or my full term date, I know that I'm going to get out there and I'm going to put my best foot forward and not allow this bad choice and decision that I made in my life define me for the rest of my life. But to also be a stepping stool in a sense. I know, take a negative and try to make it a positive in a sense to where I never have to, look back, but only look forward, and to, never ever have to be put back in a situation like this ever again, because now I know to change people, places, and things. So I'll never have that hookup again.
I'm going to ask Ms. Renatza if she will start the questioning. It's been assigned to her.
Yep, thank you. Well, Justin, good to see you again.
Nice to see you, ma'am. Looking great as ever.
I'm glad to see that they were able to transfer you to Bayou Dorcheat and that you were able to take advantage of that program. Now, what is the most, when I reviewed your record again, you were 29 at the time this happened. Is that right?
Yes,
She
ma'am.
was 12.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And this happened on more than one occasion. So what did you learn? Give me like the top 3 things that you learned. You seem to like to talk and you're very good at it. But tell me, what's the top 3 things you learned in that sex offender treatment that's going to help you with the rest of your life?
Okay. Number 1, accountability. You have to take accountability for your actions, because if you don't take accountability for your actions, you're not growing as a person. 1, 2, don't downplay it. What I did was wrong and I hurt somebody. Did I intentionally plan to? No, but my actions, and that resulted in hurting somebody, and I'm remorseful for that. And 3, I probably would say change your people, places, and things. Because I don't know if it shows in the record, but my victim was my dad's girlfriend's daughter. And my dad, I love him to death, but hasn't made the best choices in his life. And that just was a negative situation that I tried to help, but it just didn't turn out right. Put it like that. And people, places, and things, because I surround myself usually with, good people, and I come from a good family, but I made a mistake. I made a poor choice, and it hurt people. And that's what hurt me the most, collectively, is that to see her hurt, because, I'm a grown man. She doesn't deserve to have to go through that. The family doesn't have to go through that, anything like that. And
so what is your relationship now with your father?
It's decent. My dad just got out of jail January 12th of this year. He did some time in Morehouse over apparently a domestic over his ex-girlfriend. Now,
so you're talking about his mother, you're talking about? So they're not together anymore, you think?
No, ma'am. No, they haven't been together since like right before he went to jail. And I think he did like 9 or 10 months.
Okay. So let me ask you this. I'm going to let you talk in just a second. I wanted you to know that, as you know, part of the process, we reach out to the victims, and in this case, mother is not opposed to early release for you. She just wants to move on with her life.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you? I know, as when you were at Bayou Dorcheat, or where you're at now, where are you?
Claiborne.
Have you been able to take the pre-release program?
No, ma'am, I have not.
Okay. That is required by law now before we can do an early release. And I don't know if Claiborne offers that program. Do you?
I don't know. You're talking about like
the 100 hours they call it.
I think Caddo, where I'm from, does.
Okay.
CCC.
Yeah. So what is, if you're successful today, I don't know, you'd have to take the pre-release. What's your plan? Where would you go?
I'm gonna go back home with my parents for right now to help get back on my feet because, as you know, labeled as a sex offender, I have
Oh,
a
you
few
got some
hurdles.
challenges, yeah, for a long
Yes, I
time.
have some hurdles, and I know that, and that's just part of my debt to society, and that's something that I've come to have to wear, and
So
that's
you
something I
mentioned
have to
your
do.
parents. Would that be your mother and your father? Or
No,
who is
my
that?
mom, I don't know where my mom's at, and my dad no. When I say my parents, I mean my dad's mom.
Your grandparents, your
Yeah,
grandmother.
my
Okay.
grandparents. Yeah, they're the one that raised me.
Right. Where do
I
they
would be.
live?
They live in Keithville,
Okay.
Keithville, Louisiana, out there by Fort Wade Correctional.
Right. Yeah. Where would
Yes,
you
ma'am.
work?
I would probably go back working as a mechanic. I have some friends that live in Mansfield that actually run their own mechanic shop, family owned. And if not that, then warehouse, because I mean, I know how to do warehouse shipping and receiving. I know how to do welding, auto mechanics. So I have a vast range of options, I should say, but also if those don't work, I mean, there's also places out there that help. I can talk to the parole office in Shreveport and ask them, hey, give me a list of places that hire felons and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Is there any staff there in the room with you?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. There's two of them.
I can't see them. I wanted to ask them if there were any, well, you tell me, you've had any write-ups since you've been there?
No, ma'am, I haven't had any write-ups since I've been down, ma'am.
Okay, good. All right, well, I'm going to just sit back and listen to my colleagues.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Freeman.
I have no question.
Mr. Medlin, you speak very well.
Yes, ma'am.
Your victim, I don't know where I read in here that it was consensual. Do you understand that a 12-year-old cannot consent to sex?
Yes, ma'am.
17-year age difference between you and your victim. Do you think that you were taking advantage of her?
Intentionally, no, but as a whole, yes.
Explain to me what you mean by intentionally no.
Because the whole relationship in a whole did not start out as a situation like that. Put it in layman's terms, her mom's not a good person, her dad's not a good person, my dad wasn't a good person. And I was originally asked to speak to her by my dad and her mother to basically try to help her go through some of the emotional problems she was facing before I even met her. And I guess you could say I saw myself in her from the way I was raised up, and I felt bad. But then later on in the development of the relationship, she got too close, I got too close, and again, I made a horrible mistake, and I am paying for it. But again, it wasn't intentional, like, okay, hey, I'm gonna do this, or so on and so forth. It's just, it developed that way. And I had moments of weakness, and I regret that the choices I made affected that girl for the rest of her life, sadly.
Okay. You do have a static 99, which is our risk assessment tool. And you have a 2, which is moderately high on that tool. I don't have any other questions. Mr. Knotson?
Yes, I'm prepared to vote. Justin, I enjoyed listening to you today. You do like to talk. In my case, I do have some concerns. However, You did what was asked of you at the last hearing. You were denied because you didn't have the sex offender treatment. You applied yourself. You took that program. Sounds like
Yes,
you
ma'am.
learned a lot from it. My vote today is going to be to grant your parole because of that, and that, you know, his mother has said she's not opposed if you've done what you're supposed to do, but you have to complete the pre-release program first, which means I'm going to make that a condition. So they'll move you somewhere that has it if they don't have it
You want me
there.
to ask her real quick?
Well, if
Behind
they
me, if
have
they
it there,
haven't?
then if they have it there, then you'll stay there to do it. If not, they'll move you somewhere that does.
Yes, ma'am.
After release, you're to report to your PO weekly for 60
Yes,
days.
ma'am.
First 60 days, you have
Yes,
to
ma'am.
comply, as you already know and have stated, with all the sex offender
Offender.
contract requirements, and
Yes,
you're to have
ma'am.
no contact with or her family ever.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Freeman?
I concur with Mr. Renata. I think you will benefit from probation and parole supervision. You'll be getting out shortly if we do not, so I want you under supervision. Make sure you do all the requirements of the sex offender contract. So my
Yes,
vote
sir.
to grant with the same special conditions as Ms. Renata.
Thank you, sir.
My vote is to deny based on the, a light sentence pled down from first degree. I'm so pleased that you have taken your appropriate programming. That's going to be very helpful. You do have a release date 2026, and if you take any more classes, that, you know, would be good. But my vote today is to deny. So you've been denied today, sir. The time is 12:57, and that concludes our business. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it's a deny, Miss Ledoux to save the day. You know, she is growing on me. She does not mess around. She doesn't have maybe the same flair as like a Miss Stapleton or a Miss Bonnie Jackson. She's just all business. And it's she laid down the hammer. And I think she is absolutely right. You know, he was indicted on first degree, essay facing, I don't know what that charge is. Is it possible 50 years? I forget what. Maybe it was 20 years he was facing, and they give him a 5-year plea deal. And his support, his aunt wasn't there. Maybe he was smart enough to know not to have her show up. I don't know. But isn't it interesting? He was repeating like what the programs taught him. It was like he was repeating it verbatim, almost as if he was cured. But then with a little bit of poking around from Miss Ledoux, his house of cards collapses. The reasons that he even gives, what he would do, the third reason, change people, place, thing, because it's his father's fault, because his father's a bad person and his father's girlfriend's a bad person, and because of them, he decided to assault his father's girlfriend's daughter, 12-year-old. Wow, I'm sure that was great for their relationship, son. I'm sure dad loved that you did that to his girlfriend's daughter, because that was everything that they wanted in their lives. He's literally blaming them. He's literally blaming his father. No matter how bad his father might be, that has nothing to do with you essaying a 12-year-old. I'm glad Miss Ledoux brought it up. It's like, can you imagine? Just think about this. 29 years old, 12 years old. There's like there are some people who think, oh, but what about the idea that maybe he's just a roach? Maybe he's just a chomo. Maybe that's just what he's into, ladies and gentlemen. Why can't we just lay down that foundation as a potential possibility? The DAs don't think it. The judges don't think it. They're just like 5 years. The reasons that he's giving, it's like if you watch enough parole hearings, if you watch enough court, if you watch enough, predator catcher stuff, they do all sound the same. What makes him a little different, we've seen other people that are as slimy and well-spoken as he is, and those are the most dangerous kind, to be frank. And he, in my opinion, falls under that bucket as the most dangerous kind because he's well spoken, because he can be so polite. He can turn on that Southern charm. You almost find yourself feeling bad for him. But then keep in mind the words, listen to what he is saying. I saw myself in her. I felt bad. I made a horrible mistake and I'm paying for it. I had a moment of weakness, and the choices that I made will affect the girl for the rest of her life. Well, at least that part. That part actually is okay. You know something else? He has a risk score, which is 2, which is hard to get a score of 2. And I do want now. I'm not going to go through it, but if those of you familiar, it's a static 99. It's a 10-point questionnaire that is self-reporting. So for him to have a score of 2, would not be possible for him to say that he just essayed his stepsister. It just wouldn't. That wouldn't give you a 2 points. So I wonder how he got the 2 points. Is it possible he admitted to other victims that he wasn't? That's always possible. He does. He checks the box. One box he checks the Ch0M0s that he doesn't have. Like if he doesn't realize what he's saying is bad. Like how he brought up watching porn in the last hearing, and even how his aunt had mentioned that he went into the sheriff's station twice to talk to them. He's the kind of guy that just talks, spews. You see it all the time in the predator catcher things. They don't know how to shut up and they just spill their beans. And I wonder if he was honest in his risk assessment score, which is why he has a 2, which would indicate he has other victims. Again, I'm just speculating. What else am I missing? It's these kind of hearings that I'm going to watch it again and wish I had said this and wish I had said that, because there's so much here to say. But I guess, again, just how uncanny it was that you could almost confuse these two perpetrators, their family support, the sisters, the denial, the weak sentences, But isn't that also interesting now that the legislation is passed, that you need to have the 100-hour program to get out? Holly has mentioned that she's seen a bunch get denied for not having other programs. So, they're passing legislation in Louisiana left and right that's making it harder and harder and harder for those to get parole. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not for the knee-jerk react. You had before, it was really easy to get parole. Now they're going to make it really hard, and we can never find a good median. I think there should be a median. Not ferocious though. But anyways, thank you again, Lady Holly and Sir Richard, for making this possible to connect the dots with the super spreadsheet that we have, and thanks to Cole for bringing this up in email today. And with that, I'll let you go.
I pled out to the charge of cruelty to a juvenile. I think I may have caused some trauma to my sister, and
I'm raising my little girl, his sister, not the same person who was in the court case. My daughter is 10, and every night she cries for her Bubba and her daddy. And I cannot bring her daddy home, but I can do everything I can to try and bring her Bubba home.
And your relationship to the victim in this case was what?
My stepsister.
And how old was she?
13.
We did not want him to take a plea. We did not want him to agree to something that we did not feel that he had done, and that the victim and the mother and my brother have all said he did not do, even though their stories have changed.